next level. Like, this is a really interesting concept. When I was working in consultant, there was a way that people were able to get promoted. What they said was, you can be the top of your specific level right now. You can be the number one consultant and not get promoted to a manager. Because if you haven't been doing and taking steps aligned with the level that you're really looking to play at, we can't just take the risk of assuming that you'll be great at it. And it's with that general mindset that I come into the next level games. When I think about this year, it's around being able to say, how can we orient and align you with the next level? And this is a little bit of a distinction the distinction I'm currently working with. I'm like, it's coming out in real time, but a distinction between success and growth. And at first I thought this was about a next level of success. How do we help you accomplish more? How do we help you have more things underneath your belt? And then I realized, as I've been talking to people, that the next level game is not a game of success. The outliers, pioneers, mavericks, the people that are in my world, the people that excite me, the people that inspire me, the people who intimidate me, they're not worried about success. They've accomplished that. They've gotten the traditional and conventional levels of success. Where their mind is at is on their next level of growth. What's going to challenge me more? What's going to pull out more of me? Where can I go that's going to give me the greatest opportunity now and in the future? So when we play today, I'd love to play from that area of growth, the area of your next level of growth. And we have two amazing players with us today. I'm going to introduce right now Diana, and Diana, I'd like to bring you into the game, the arena. Diana, you can go ahead and unmute yourself at this time. So we spent some time beforehand. We went over the agreements and such, and I'd like to make sure that we really do have that in place before I go to anyone in this game. And I think that the concept of the next level of growth is something that really excites me right now. And I think, we've played in the past, so I'd love to change it up a little bit and see what's there. When you think about it for yourself, right, I'd like you to just think in your mind here, and Abby, I'm going to invite you to do the same, and anyone else that's here, just think right now at your current level of growth. How are you choosing to play the game? You don't have to tell me this just yet. But how are you choosing to play? How do you show up at your current level of growth? And at your next level, if you're going to accelerate that, if you're going to really play at like a higher level of growth and to accelerate from that perspective, what would that look like? So don't need to answer just yet. I just want you to see it. Okay. So with that there, and then let me know. Okay, great. We had disconnected for a bit, so now we're back.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
What is the opportunity that lives within your next level of growth that you currently am not taking advantage of?
I think the opportunity is to own my story in my next level, fearlessly and unbridled. Whereas currently I'm cautious and calculated.
Fearlessly and unbridled. All right. I like that. I got a chance to see you recently on TV here, and I got a chance to see a glimpse of what that looks like. And I'd like to actually take our time in this conversation and to use this as an opportunity of practice. So rather than take this conversation to get to fearless and unbridled, I'm going to invite you to start from there right now in this conversation. Right?
Okay.
Know that we've created an environment where you can play that way. It might get messy.
That's okay. That's where the magic happens.
Yes, exactly. I'm looking for it to get messy, right?
Yeah. All right.
So fearlessly and unbridled. All right. So Diana, if you were fearless and unbridled when it comes to your story and when it comes to everything else around you, all right, what would we need to talk about that would take that would change the entire game for you?
Mhm. Um, I think we would need to talk about how sexual harassment has completely impeded my ability to move forward.
All right. Game on.
Game on.
Right. So tell me more about what you'd like to share there. And let's do this, Diana. What I'm feeling called to do here is, what part of your story would you like to share with me when it comes to that?
Um, well, I think there are a couple of things. I think, suffering from PTSD that was undiagnosed for 20 years and having that all come to a head as a result of a recurrence that was triggered by sexual harassment. Um, I think the part that I would like to share with you is how there was it was really a gift. And I know that sounds crazy. It was a gift, and how it's gotten me to where I am currently today. And that's the part of the story that I think I don't typically talk about unless I'm specifically asked. But it's a part of the story nonetheless that, I don't want to gloss over. It's a very messy, shameful, or shame-inducing, rather, part of the story. However, it has led me to where I am today. And it cannot be denied that it was a major game changer for me.
And I really want to just take the time to just acknowledge you, Diana, for just like coming out and playing this game so hard. Like, it's not like there's a level here of your commitment to yourself that I really want to just make sure that I acknowledge here. And we talked about this in the rules, in the agreements that we had set up earlier for this game here. Like, I'm going to lead, but you're in control. So if there's at any point, if you want to take it somewhere else, you let us know. Right. With that being said, that also is going to give me more permission to just ask the questions and keep you in the place where you can also ask as necessary. So the gift that you got from this year, right? Like you said, a lot of people wouldn't normally think of it that way. A lot of people would even hear that and be like, "There's no gifts in there," and yet for you, that's a part of your story here.
Right.
When it comes to the gifts there, what would you like to say?
I think that there are gifts in failure, tremendous gifts and tremendous opportunities in failure, in vulnerability, in shame, for us to grow, for us to connect with a part of ourselves that we've shut down for means of survival. And ultimately, the biggest gift is to change the conversation moving forward. We need to change the conversation.
So for us in this conversation, right? The two things that I can feel right now. One, I can feel an inclination to just give you a platform to just say to speak it out. All right. And then the other part of me is also really curious as to what right now, if you had to say, what right now is the biggest reason why you're not able to share that part of the story. So why don't we start with that second question? What's keeping you right now from being able to share that part of the story?
I think the biggest reason is where what my profession is and where I work has kind of impeded that from being spoken publicly, which is okay. There's a time and a place for everything. I get it. I'm respectful of it, and I will find the means within to work within it and outside of it. Give me time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know that about you. Like you find it's there's a thing that one of my friends told me. It's like creativity thrives with constraints, and so
Yeah,
like what I'm hearing from you is like you know what your boundaries are, you know where some of your constraints are, and you're being creative within that, right? And
absolutely.
you're finding your place there. So tell me right really quickly here, what would like if you were able to speak from a place where you're able to own that part of the story and also share that part of the story, what would change for you?
I'm not sure. What would change for me is an opportunity to show up the most honest I've ever showed up, and to truly fully embody all the parts of the story, including the parts where I'm messed up, like where the onus is on me to take responsibility. Um, yeah, I think that's basically it. Um, how that might change the conversation moving forward would be huge. Yeah.
So let's do this here. I would love to explore a little bit here. If the conversation got changed, right? I know you to be someone that serves people and serves people really like really deeply. I know your mission in the world, right? Um, I love to hear it from you, if you don't mind. Like, share with me right now, like what is true to you about around your mission.
My mission is shameless learning to eradicate shame from a child's educational experience. That all shame basically has its root in our childhood, um, and can most memorably be experienced in a school or through parenting. Um, I would love to be able to use my platform to eradicate shame and encourage courageous conversations where vulnerability and failure are at the heart of learning.
So tell me here, like, and like I can feel that, and it's really it's really great to see just how like in alignment you are. Like you own that there. Like that is you.
Yeah.
Um, tell me in this conversation here, if the conversation was changed, right, and people were having a different conversation. I guess the question is, what's the conversation that's missing right now that you would love to be bringing to the world?
Oh, that's huge. The conversation that I think is missing is it could be basically summarized with what's my role? What's my role? What's my role in shame? What's my role in failure? What's my role in being failure averse? What's my role in not taking responsibility? What's my role in avoiding courageous conversations that can virtually change the landscape of what we're looking at and generations to come? What's my role?
It's a powerful conversation right there.
Damn right.
And the conversation that really speaks to ownership. And as we're talking here, there's elements of this conversation that remind me of a book that I read probably like twice a year. It's called Community: The Structure of Belonging by Peter Block. Community: The Structure of Belonging, and in it talks about six different types of conversations, and and the role of the leader to really define the conversation and to really help elevate and change the conversations to one that move us toward possibility. Right.
Right.
So I'm going to want to explore that a little bit with you right here, just to understand a little bit of like the context around those conversations. And I want to understand like, let's take that. Let's start from there. All right. So what I'm hearing is, what's my role? A conversation around just really giving people a chance to explore and understand like how they fit within the puzzle of
Mm-hmm.
shame there. I'll be curious here, hearing hearing your mission. What's the possibility, right? What's the possibility that you would love for people to live into? And I say this I want to be very explicit about this. A possibility is not a vision, right? It's not something that you're like, this is how it's going to look and this is how it's going to be. But if you had to kind of just describe a possibility as being something more that you're living into, or actually no, a place that you're coming from. You know, in the examples I've seen, it's like a possibility of a safe Cincinnati, a possibility of a truly inclusive world. What would be the possibility that is at the core of this conversation?
The possibility would be, what would happen if kids could come from a place of resilience in recognizing that failure is what builds resilience. The possibility is for all kids to upgrade their beliefs as they move along. Beliefs are ever evolving, yet we stick to what we created for ourselves or the stories that we told ourselves when we were 7 or 8 years old. We don't upgrade. We'll upgrade our phone, but not our beliefs, right?
I know about you, like you have a whole ecosystem. There are many different players that are all kind of contributing to this in this environment here. And I can actually see, going back to some of the things that you said earlier around the conversations around for you, like being able to share the gift that your experiences, your stories have brought in there. That actually, and I'm finding this for myself as someone who was originally all about joy, you know, it's actually incredibly vulnerable. It's one of the most vulnerable things that you can do to own your gifts. It's one of the most vulnerable things that you can do, and one of the most powerful things you can do, to find the gifts in there and to choose your response to it, to choose to be an owner versus a victim in this area. And I really want to acknowledge you as we're talking here. Like, I can see you in that, now to be in a place where you are like, I want to have this type of a conversation, to have a conversation that's around gifts, to have a conversation that's around ownership, and be able to, and I can see in you that your level of ownership allows you to take it to that next level.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I want to,
it's the only way, really.
So let me ask you here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin in this part of the conversation, right? All right. I'm seeing the world in which right now you're looking to play in, right? Now I'm gonna go to Danby for a bit, and while I'm talking to Danby, I'd like for you to think through, like, okay, now that that's out in the world, now that we've kind of identified some areas where the next level is for you, what would truly be the game-changing conversation that we need to have here? Right? There's elements of this here that I feel like you're like, okay, I'm aware this is where I want to go. I'm going to invite you to just take a little bit of time here to think about either what's the question or what's the opportunity that you really want to create, such that the two of us here when we play, and Danby as well, like the three of us here in this conversation can really help you bring to life or help you see from a new perspective. Okay? All right, great. So Danby, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we'll bring you into this conversation. It's good to have you here. Danby, what I love to do as we come over here is really just start with a check-in with you. All right. I love to hear from you without, and this is really important. I'm willing to be messy. I have to play by my own rules here. I love to hear one insight or one thing that you got from the conversation that I've started to have with Diana as it applies to you. Now, I'll be a little bit more explicit right now. I'm not looking for anything around Diana's experience. That's her experience. She's going through it. Like she's working on her own thing, and there's no element of her that needs fixing or guidance or advice or any of that stuff. Like it's not that space. And I will kind of step in if I hear it kind of going in that way. What I am interested in is you got it, like in this conversation with a very powerful woman who is Diana. I'd be curious about what's happening for you internally, and then we'll take it from there. So why don't you share with me one insight that you've gotten as a result of our conversation so far?
Sure. What I found really striking was how sure, Diana, that you sounded about the conversation you want to have, and
what did that do for you inside when that came up for you?
I guess my immediate reaction is, "Ooh, I don't have that." Like I don't have, actually when you started talking about next level, I was like, oh, what is next level? And I realized I wasn't even really sure about what next level would be like for me. And that kind of highlighted what's the big picture, right? Where am I going? I know where I want to be next year. I have a vague idea of the kind of life I want in 2 years' time, but that's all it's very me. It's one person's thing. And it made me wonder how that fits into the bigger picture, which is beyond me. Mm. And it highlighted that I don't have a very clear picture around that.
How does that feel? Is that like, for now, is that okay? That's something that like is something that you desire? Is like, it could just be all right that you don't have that picture right now?
On a day-to-day basis, I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm just super focused on where I want to get to in the next 6 months. But when I hear the feeling I got while I heard Diana speaking was like, oh, I want that. It's like, I'm a bit jealous. That, I mean, she has it's a heavy topic. It's a serious work, but that sounds awesome. And it seems like something to aspire to.
Cool. So let me ask you, would you be interested in playing a little bit here and to see if we can get a bit of that?
Sure.
See if there's anything there for you. And then you let me know. So Shore is something that's really hard for me because I'm typically inviting people in. So yes or no, I can work with. Shore is really hard for me.
Why is that Shore not?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is an important one here. So for me, when this is also coming from my own personal history. Like I can see family members saying Shore and then seeing what happens afterwards, right? But the way that I look at Shore, it typically is I really want to make sure that we always keep our power dynamics in a place where like there's no one person is a certain power over the other. Mm-hmm. And what I found around most instances when the word Shore comes up is a place with a dynamic of like, I don't really necessarily want to, but you're inviting me to do this. So sure, I'll go ahead and do it. But this is not my choice. It's just like, you're asking me, so I'm doing it. And so for me, that word, especially in the context of deep, powerful coaching, is very disempowering. And that's not a place where I don't want to see that in the world. And when I look at any single conversation I have, I look at this conversation as a model of the way that I see the world being in the world in the long run. So from that, I ask that when I bring up Shore there as a way for us both to restore both of our power and be able to play from there.
Okay. Is it kind of like how fine would sound?
I don't know. I think so. Like, okay. I don't know. No one's ever said fine, I say Shore all the time, but I don't say fine. But yeah, I think it's very much.
I hate fine.
Yeah.
Hate it.
But of course.
Yeah. So it's from that spirit. Like I think
I understand. Thanks for explaining.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. Yes. Right. I'm happy to.
And that yes right there, like Demi, like that's a completely different like there's an energy behind it. There's a whole area right there that's just like a straight up yes, right? Let me ask you this question. Where in your life right now are you living with shores? Things in here that you've like kind of shored your way into that aren't like that energetic yes for you. Where are those other areas right now in your life?
Now that you mention it, that's kind of been my whole life because I've never really known what I wanted to do. I've never been one of those kids who had a super clear career path that they, plan all of their high school, like grad level courses in. And it was always a little bit of, oh, this opportunity sounds great. Like, I'm going to go do this because it came up and it sounds good. And I feel like I got to a pretty good place. I studied what I wanted to study. I got a job I was happy with. That got me to other jobs I was happy with. But at no point did I really go out and go for something very specific. It was never, so all the really good choices, really good responsible choices that I made, none of that was very, I guess I would compare to like a yes action. It was, oh, this has come up. And now I'm understanding your view of the word sure. It was, here's a great opportunity. I'm going to say yes because it's here and it sounds cool, but it's not because I looked at the world, saw what I wanted and said, yes, that's what I'm going to go out and get. So in short, up to this point, until I decided to start my own business this year, really, it's always been sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's an element here. I feel like we can play in a lot of different ways. So let's do all of that. All right. Do you happen to have a pen and paper around you by any chance?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. Yeah. I'd love for you to just like write down, and feel free to take like the time that you need. I'd like you to write down like 5 things right now that are chores in your life right now. Right. Like the way I look at it is like, it's like, yes, like actually let's go with it. Hell yes. Like that yes energy, like hell yes. Right. Sure and no. Right. Sure might also be like a maybe, or like, but it's like, it's something that you're already committed to. I'm really interested in your commitments right now, to give you some space to then be able to start seeing more of what the yeses are for you. Right. It's like, cause when we start getting more of those like energized yeses in your life, I think you're going to start being able to see with a lot more clarity what it is that like pulls you forward in life. What it is that like, you're like, oh yes, this one, definitely. Wait, I'm so energized by the yeses in my life that I no longer have room for chores in my life. Like just because it's cool for you doesn't mean it's cool for me. And I think that might help you actually get some of the clarity, that feeling that you're looking for inside.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead, and I'm going to stay with you on this year. I don't care how long it takes. Like I'm willing to be uncomfortable in that place. Why don't you write down yes, sure, like a list of 5 chores right now that you have.
Okay, yes.
All right. And then actually, no, I actually think I can give you this year and you can work through this year. Right. Take a list of like 5 chores that you have in your life and spend some time thinking about it. Right. And my invitation to you is to not like cheat yourself on this year. Like find like the chores that get underneath your skin, the chores that you're like, this is completely draining for me. The chores that you're like, wow, like I said sure, and I'm thrilled that I said sure because this one led to like, this was actually a good opportunity for me versus just like it was kind of middle and it stayed middle, you know? So write 5, you can write more than that, but what I like to do, I'm going to go back to Diana here. But what I like to do is have you write out those 5 and then in one column in the middle, and then a column on one side that says yes, hell yes, actually. And the other column that says hell no. Right. And see in the space of this time here, if you can move those 5 things into one of the 2 like categories. And what I would say is this: the threshold for hell yes is only hell yes. It is a 10 out of 10, you know? If it's less than that, it's actually a no. Right. And let's see what happens here. And I'll come back to you afterwards. Let's see what happens if we're able to move some of those things out there and maybe use that as our platform, as our foundation to go ahead and play a little bit further on. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, great. I'll come back to you in a bit. Diana.
Yes, sir.
Ready to play some more?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So let me just check in with you really quickly. Where are you at in this conversation?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna let you guide us here in terms of where the rolling needs to be. All right, in our time left here, like if we were really gonna roll, if we're gonna play next level here, and let me know, this might be a too difficult of a question just ask heads on, but what would make this an incredible conversation for you?
Yeah, so I spent some time thinking about that while you were talking to Danby, and I'm if I'm being 100% honest, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. And the reason I'm not sure, I think I'm getting hung up on life-changing conversation. Like I play it at, I'm playing all out. I mean, I really am the person that hides nothing and holds nothing back. I'm going after it. And so I think that life-changing, I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I think maybe it already was life-changing because I finally gave voice to a story that maybe I had held back on for so long. So that could be why I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So let's play a little bit there, right? Because the general thing here is I'm also noticing for myself as I do this year, there's a tension between the next level, like that I'm finding out with the next level game that is that I'm also looking to see like how do we actually continue to play this in a way that continues to be constructive, right? So I'm calling myself out here as we go on here because there might just be like there's certain questions like what do you want that are like almost impossible to answer like head on, So there may be some elements in what I'm in the questions that I'm asking that are leading to this here, right? And so I want to own that on my end. On one area, we consistently have life-changing conversations. So I'm not necessarily like worried about that. And like I'll be curious if there's anything around this that feels different for you in terms of like the construct around life-changing conversation, because that's what we do, So I'll be curious if there's anything around that.
No, I don't think there's anything different. I think I know what I want. Like, well, I don't think I know what I want. I know what I want.
Yep.
I know what I want. And, I answered the Google survey, albeit I did a little late. My apologies for that. But I did it. And the thing that was great about doing it when I did it was that I was coming from a place of flow and not filtering the response. So in coming from the place of flow, it all made sense. And I was like, dang, this is it. So I know what I want and I know where I want to be in 3 years. And I'm going to backward build that understanding by design at work here. And I'm going to backward build that. And, what I think is helpful for me is just staying out of my own way.
Yeah. That was you brought up earlier, fearless and unbridled.
Mm-hmm.
Fearless and unbridled. And I remember, and I love to just like make sure we keep that in this conversation, right? It's like the unfiltered, like Diana, the one that doesn't have to like think carefully around what needs to be said and anything. It's just like you're just in flow. It's not even throttled. It's just like I'm just like you're just flowing. So if we're gonna have a conversation here, because like I realize like me and you, we just have life-changing conversations. Like no extra, there's no pressure that's necessary. There's nothing on that, right? If we were just gonna have a conversation here, like where would you want to like what would be interesting for you to talk about? Like it doesn't have to be life-changing in this conversation. Like what would be interesting? What would be something? The word life accelerating is what came to mind. Where it's like look, no, you're on your path. You're already on the exponential. In the exponential way, we work like together. We have that going on. So if that's the case here, like what I think the question for me is like what would be fun for you to talk about, like that would be meaningful to you.
What would be fun to talk about is I think what I want to talk about is how to get my message, my mission out to all the interesting parties, because I am a little hesitant, and that's the fear speaking. So when we talk about fearless and unbridled, it's like, screw it, I'm doing it. I am reaching out to Prince William and Duchess Catherine's mentally healthy classrooms initiative, wanting to be a part of that. I am sending my TV spot to the Institute of Positive Education, and I've already sent it to the Brene Brown people, so that's already taken care of. But you're just doing it. You're doing it. I'm being shameless in my sharing for others? And how is that part of my mission?
Yeah. Are you willing to play in the brag zone with me, Diana?
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I want to celebrate you really quickly here. Like, it's really cool. I just noticed like this is just how you choose to play. All right. What's one part of like the way that you've been playing recently that you would love to be acknowledged about, that would also be a gift to others if you really included it as part of your story, because you're playing a hard game.
Mm-hmm.
You're right there, and I want to just kind of make sure we're capturing the gifts of what you're doing right now for yourself as well.
I think one thing I would like to be acknowledged for is overcoming massive amounts of anxiety to even put it out there. Yeah, I think that, and I think I would like to be acknowledged for showing up when I'm 70% ready and not waiting for the 100% marker to come online. I'm doing it, flaws and all. I'm not doing it for perfection. And the gift to other people is that, because we've become obsessed with perfection when there is not such a thing, number one, and the perfection is the very thing that is holding us back from participating at a more human, authentic level. That's it.
So then I wanted to take in this moment here and share something with you here. I know a really powerful woman in my life, and this woman has overcome massive amounts of anxiety in order to really show up in the world. Not just show up in the world in her day to day, but to show up for other people as someone that really is moving something new forward in the world, as someone who's calling out a truth in the world that just needs to have a light shined on it. And it's someone who's choosing to show up for herself, for her family, for her peers, and for other leaders who could use that light to shine, who could use that reminder, and who can use a path there. I want to acknowledge you, Diana, for showing up in this conversation as you are. Because I know where things were when we first started, and for you to be in this place where you're owning like your story, you're owning what you want. You can write it down, and you're like, yeah, this is just it. You aren't filtering what you want. You're not setting yourself back in terms of what you think you can get or what others might think you can have. And you acknowledge the boundaries and still find a way to play as hard as you want to play. I really want to take this time to acknowledge you on that, Diana, because you really have been playing a next level game. And you consistently keep your eyes forward for what does that look like? What does it look like in various leagues there? And it's really important to me that you know that I see that. I truly respect you for what you're doing and the way that you're choosing to do it. This was not like you've done things that most people just think about. You've taken action on it and you consistently do it. And you're putting yourself in rooms and putting yourself in front of people that truly excite you. And I also get a bit there and scare you just a bit too. And I think that's really fun too. And
that's awesome.
and it's what's really cool is that you like honestly you've been doing this consistently. You've been coming in and when I talk to you, there's a new level of this each time. It's just I'm going to reach out to this team. I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to send this in there. So I want to acknowledge you on that because there's I just want to let you know that that it's being seen. I also want to take some time to acknowledge you for how you choose to show up, even when you're not necessarily ready, quote unquote, even when you're not at your best. And I think that to me is the part that is the part that I truly feel when it comes to acknowledging. One of the things that I've been realizing recently is that people out there are toting, be your best self, be your best this, bring your best this to like, and it's just such a small sliver. I mean, like, by the definition of what best is, it cannot be all encompassing. It has to be, it has to represent just a small part. And what I really respect about you is that you're willing to show up anyway, even if it's not you at your best, even if it's not the best. You're the person who looks like, I mean, this is what it is. You're truly courageous. You're truly courageous because the courage is what's necessary to show up at that 70%. The courage is what's necessary to own more of your gifts and to do it in a visible way. To not just have it be something that's internal, but amongst the three of us to be able to put that out into the world. And for us to know, like, okay, this is the game that she's playing, and not warming your way into it, but starting off right off the bat and saying, like, this is the game I'm playing. At 70%, it is enough. And the thing is, I want to acknowledge you. And I also want to thank you, because gratitude is a big thing for me. I want to thank you for being someone who's chosen to play even when it's at 70%. Because there are a lot of people who are at 80%, 90%, even 99% who are given 0% because they're not in the game. Mm-hmm. You are playing, and you're playing consistently, and the world is better off as a result of that.
Thank you.
And I want to take this time here to truly acknowledge you for that. And to really like call that into this room here.
Thank you so much. I received that with a lot of gratitude. Thank you so much.
You're a player, my friend. Mm-hmm. So my inclination now is to go back to Danby, and I am also playing out of my comfort zone in here. So we're going to stay. We're going to stay here, right? I'm going to stay with you. You've gotten flow. You're like, you also like, we're seeing the game that you're playing. All right, I'll just ask this one. You're a coach and a powerful one at this. If there was a question you were going to ask yourself right now, if you were the coach right now, what's the question that you would ask?
What am I missing?
What are you missing?
What am I missing?
And in what context? Okay.
In next level context. What am I missing? In next level context. What am I missing presently that I'm not tuned into?
And what if you weren't missing anything?
That'd be a first. Yeah. I don't know. If I wasn't missing anything, I guess the question I would ask is, why do I feel like I'm missing something?
Yeah. Let's talk through that a little bit here. So I'm hiding nothing, holding nothing back here. Mm-hmm. And I saw something here, and it was like in the back of my mind. I was just going to let it go, but I'm like, now I'm deciding to bring it in. I acknowledge you for two different things. And I could feel like there was like an emotional response. Like I could see an emotional response when I was acknowledging you for overcoming the anxiety, right? And showing up that way. And then I brought in the second thing around, showing up with 70% ready, right? And in 70%, there's an element of it that I'm missing 30%. right? It's like, it's a thing that isn't said, but it's like, I'm showing up 70% ready. And what was really true for me was that, like, in you showing up 70% compared to others who are at 80 and not showing up, at 90 and not showing up, at 99% and not showing up, they're still presenting zero. So your 70% is 100%. And I really want to just, like, I want to see, like, I want to invite that into this conversation here around what if there was nothing missing in terms of that next level. Like, in fact, I've been asking you, like, no, it doesn't really feel like, I feel like I've been having life changing. Like, I feel like I'm playing. I feel like I'm in my game. I feel like I'm in flow. I feel like this. I feel like if I was going to leave here, I would just reach out to, and you just started naming the people that you would reach out to, like, I don't know if I want to play this game with you from a what's missing, what's your problem perspective, because I really feel like you are enough. Like plain and simple, you are the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that, because I was thinking today, like, I had a whole list of things. I'm like, well, things aren't coming online quick enough for you because you haven't done this and you haven't done this and you need to read this 1,000 times more. And in my mind, it's always that I haven't done enough. Always.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that comes because, of what I do for a living. There's a lot on being 100% right. We live in a land of 100%. And, so I think for me, it's changing my whole mindset around that. Yeah.
And would you give yourself permission for whatever you're doing to be exactly enough? And now I'm going to ask the question that's edgy for me. Are you willing to give yourself permission? You don't have to give it to yourself in this moment. So are you willing to give yourself permission to actually edge on beyond that, and for whatever you're doing to be too much?
Yes.
It's a really interesting shifted energy there. What just came, like, what just shifted for you there?
Because too much is not a good thing. Like, too much can wreck it, right? I mean, yes, I do give myself permission to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I love being too much now. And so Danby was actually in the conversation where I had my too much breakdown. We were at dinner and I just lost it. Someone said something and I was like, how could you say that? Like, all this stuff, because, like, too much was not a good thing. And what I realized was I went through this whole process of, like, choosing. This is part of what made me start choosing games, because I went through a month of May and saying it's too much May. And the game was to be too much. And the game was to get points if someone thought that I was being too much. Like, I got a point if someone, like, opened their eyes wide or, like, took a step back. And this happens to me a lot. It's like, I'm like,
me too.
Yeah. So that was a point there. The real thing was, like, for me in that game, it was around, like, being able to accept, not even accept. Because that's the thing. Accept is, like, I think a lot of times we're seeking to accept, and it's like a neutral state. But there's a level beyond that. There's a level beyond that of, like, actually valuing and appreciating and acknowledging all of our awesomeness there, right? And so the game for me became, how can I go on and actually see this as a positive, right? So I would give myself 3 points when someone said, whoa, Nemo, you're a lot. That's intimidating. That, like, oh, it's easy for you. Like, any of those things out there, I give myself 3 points if I went back and I said, thank you. Because that was me accepting it. Wow. I was like, thank you. 5 points, though. This is, to me, was a next level game, right? 3 points was, like, in the same level, playing at, like, playing higher, like, just at a higher level of excellence. But my next level altogether was to really be able to receive it. And so then, I kid you not, people will come up and they're like, or they'll be like, wow, dude, like, that's a lot. You're a lot, man. And I'm like, And I would, I remember one specific instance. I walked away. I said, okay. I walked away. And then I remembered in my mind, I was like, oh, that was a 5-pointer right there. I just missed it. And I came back. I literally walked back into the conversation. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm playing this game called the Too Much game. And anytime someone says anything that's related to me being too much, if I say, you're welcome, I get 5 points. So I just want to let you know, like, I said something to you, it made you feel some way, and you're welcome. and it was just like this moment there. She's like, okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. So I'm introducing this here, Diana, because I actually think it might be fun for you to like play a little bit about like around what's your game. Like, and I get how for one level of growth that you had, what you haven't done has been a growth driver. Oh, there's still more to get done. Oh, I haven't done this yet. Oh, I need to check this off the list. Oh, well, this person's doing that. Oh, I should be here. Like, that's a really powerful level of growth. Like it worked for you. Look at what you accomplished. Look at what you did. Look at what we're celebrating here. Right. And it feels to me that for your next level of growth, it's coming from a different place. It's coming from building momentum. It's coming from staying in flow. And it's coming from being willing to acknowledge that because you are bringing it to the table, it is enough. And giving yourself even more room to be like, well, what would too much look like? Or whatever your words are, what would it be like to give even more? What if 70% for some people, like starting out a conversation like you did and say, like, I want to own the gifts of sexual harassment as part of my story, you know, like that to some people is way too much. And to other people, it is like the biggest gift that you can give them because you've just shown them a new way of being in the world. And that was you at the start of this conversation. That's just how you kick things off. Real quick here, I can see some things like right now. How do you feel internally? There's an element right here that feels like it feels like something was triggered. So let me just check in with you.
Yeah, wow. I was too much at the beginning of the thing. Yeah. I think I want to run and hide now. So that's the self-protection mode, right? I want to armor up. I'm going to go run and hide. And yeah. But I can't go back. So.
But really, really quickly here, let me point this out. And this is why I love doing things in groups. Because if me and you, we could have had this one-on-one conversation. You know, I can handle it. You know that I grow. Like, I'm like, oh, you're being too much. Oh, we're playing the too much game. Great. Let's go. But like the reason I love groups is because we have multiple lenses to be reflected on. Yeah. And I went to Danby a while ago and I asked her what one of her biggest insights so far was. And part of what she said had something to do with the way that you showed up. You might now qualify it as being too much, but for her, it led us down a path that she's seeing things that she hadn't seen before. It opened up completely new places for the two of us to explore. Right. So I want to thank you for being too much. I want to thank you for being too much. And I think that I want to invite you to find your own game with it. Take your points for sending it to whoever you want to send to. Prince William, great. That's like 5 points, Send a TV spot to the Positivity Conference, great, 3 points, the more unbridled that you are, the more points you get. The more in flow that just fits you, the more things that most people will be like, whoa, that's the more things that will get you to feel what you just felt right there. Okay. That to me feels like you're starting to play in your next level of growth. I want you to have those moments where you have that there. And let me just check in with you really quickly. You're showing up in this conversation very differently than 6 months ago when we had a group conversation, and very differently than a few months before that than when we showed up. Did it come like? And I know you to be someone who's put yourself in places where it's been uncomfortable from that. Mm-hmm. For you, is it worth it? Is it a worthwhile game to play?
Absolutely. 100%.
take some time real quick, and I want to like think through what could the game be for you that you get points for showing up at 70%. If you're at 80%, you lose points. You know, if you're at 90%, like you've waited too long. You know,
Okay.
like start thinking through a little bit here. I'm going to go to Danby, and then I'm going to come back and we'll wrap up beforehand.
Okay.
But start thinking through that. You don't need to have the details of it during this conversation, but that's what I'm going to leave you with as my
Okay.
invitation. That's here. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Great. Damn it. Let's come back online here. So you got a chance to listen to this conversation here. We've had your conversation. You wrote out your 5 shores there. I'll be curious, without having to say any specifics around any of them there. Curious for you, what was your biggest takeaway from doing that exercise on the shores? Like, it might be a lot of different ways it might go, but I'd be curious, what's your greatest takeaway?
That I do have a lot of hell yeses in my life than I'd originally given myself credit for. My immediate reaction when we started talking about what is there in my life right now that I'm just saying sure to, I started listing the hell yeses because the shores were too hard, and I guess I didn't see a lot of the things I was doing. And I'm going to give you 2 points. The other one is, I think if it is a pattern that I fall into of saying sure to opportunities without being fully into it, it's because I've had really good results. So the shores I listed, I looked at, okay, so what am I getting rid of? What am I saying no to? And what am I promoting to a hell yes? Most of it is a hell yes. And maybe that's my kind of default response to opportunities came about because a lot of good things happened from doing that.
That's awesome. And I think the invitation I have for you is like how do I say it? Because I feel like being open to new opportunities is actually something that works out really well for you, right? And you're putting yourself in positions where you're like, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm open to it, right? And so I don't want to mess with that, right? There is also a part there where I can also there's a part of you that seems like you're looking to say like, okay, well, what's the larger thing that I may want to do? Sometimes it's really interesting, Danby. I'm finding with my outliers, pioneers, and mavericks, a lot of the times it's like, look, the reason that we're out here doing things differently is because like we want a life of adventure and growth and, you know, continue to take things on. So if we do know what it's going to be like, if we do know the path that we're heading, it immediately becomes boring. Like literally, if you came here like, this is where I'm heading, I'd be like, great, you already know that. Let's go to the next thing. Like, like it's a weird thing. So I don't want to mess with that there, right? And I also want to just like, what would happen? So let me put it this way: for the shores that are no's, right? For the shores that are no's, tell me about them, like thematically, like what ends up what is the distinction between the shores that are no's and not just yeses, not just like not this is the part that's gonna be really hard, like not just 8 or 9 yeses, but like literally 10 out of 10s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like really hit it. What's the distinction that you find between the shores that end up being no's and the shores that end up being a hell yes?
The people. So I'm going to tell you the one very sure no, the one absolute no I have is working for someone else. I don't get to choose who I work with, who I spend 8+ hours of my day with if I'm working for someone else. And that's people I see every day. That's people I have to see because it's part of my work. And I realized that the hell yeses, I get to choose. And you're told that you can't have everything your way. And you have to be humble and you have to be accepting. And I'm one of the most inclusive people. I'm one of the most inclusive people I know personally, but that's very different from just accepting. I'm learning to be more selfish and I'm learning to be more arrogant and saying, I know what I want and I want to cut out the stuff that I don't want. And the stuff I don't want usually has to do with people I don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's, thank you for bringing all that in, Danby, because it's been something where I do see as one of the most inclusive people that I know. Like, and honestly, and I don't just say, I'm not just saying that lightly. It's part of the reason why I enjoy spending time with you, because you bring up different points of views that I don't normally see. And I know that, like, it's interesting to me because I'm like, I know you didn't grow up in America, and there's like times where I'll talk to you and I'm like, oh, like that's like, huh. And you're helping me see like, okay, like this is just what it means to be like an inclusive person. This is what it just means to like think and question and look from that point of view. So I do want to call that out there. And I think that, as someone who also spends my mission in life is to bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world. And people started asking me, what does true inclusion look like? And I was like, oh, like I need to figure that out. And when you say this here, there are elements in here around conversations that I've had around how can exclusion be a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
How can exclusion actually create a more inclusive environment? Right. And these are some of the questions that I'm playing with. I'm a man that's about inclusion and belonging, and I lead a tribe of outliers, pioneers, and mavericks. And that messed with my mind. I was like, don't I have to work with everyone? Like, shouldn't it be absolutely like? And the fun parts about it was I was like, oh, you know what? An outlier, pioneer, and maverick literally can be anyone. It's a choice to identify that way. And like, I'm an outlier, pioneer, and maverick when it comes to my work and the things that I do in my life. When it comes to religion, I'm right there in the middle. Like I'm not challenging any status quos. I'm not going against anything. Like in that place, I'm right. So in various areas of my life, I look in that way. So there's a gift there that I hear when you talk about being one of the most inclusive people that I'm like, yeah, it is absolutely true. And there's a gift in also saying like, actually, I have my, like, I know who I want to be spending time with. I know that the people are really important here. And it's interesting because it's like, I find that like, so we talked earlier and we talked about the brag zone, and I'm like, you don't have to worry about being arrogant or cocky in my space here. And it's because I'm like, arrogance or cocky, similar to when I was talking about too much. It's not a universal thing on that. There's not an objective scale on like this. You've hit this on the arrogance scale. It's completely subjective based on someone else's experience, And I think that there is like, I can see you thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, and that's why I play this game. That's why I set up this space here for us, because I'm like, I don't know what, like, how do I say it? It's arrogant of me to think that you accomplishing something is arrogance, because that shows a reflection on me around like what I think. Oh, that's beyond what most people like. No, Danby, you're living your life, right? And what's come for me here, and I'd love to just get your thoughts on this as we wrap up today's conversation, is you mentioned earlier, like you wanted a feeling. Diana brought up something, and you're like, I wanted to have that feeling. And when you say that, the difference between the hell yeses and the no's for you have been the people, I don't think it's a what when it comes to you. When it comes to your vision out there, I don't think it's a what vision. I'm going to mobilize $100 million, and like, I don't think that's it. I'm going to create a X, Y, and Z. I'm going to create this empire. But I feel like that's less for you. And that might be what other people are typically talking about, but I don't think it's the game that you play. I think it's a who question for you. Who do you want to serve? Who do you want to be surrounded by? When you look at your end of your life and people are talking about Danby, like, who do you want to be talking about you?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want to like really have known? Like all those things. I think that that your vision and your mission and things like that really comes down to the who.
That makes sense.
Would that be something that you'd be interested in, like, and playing around with? And we can talk about that at a later time.
Yes,
I think there's
yes.
an element there that's just like,
I'm definitely gonna go and think about this
yeah,
on my own, but I'd love to talk to you about it.
yeah, hell yeah, who? Like, it's like you played that. I think
That's going on a post-it note in my office.
3 words, and literally people come one day and they're like, so how did you do it? Like, damn, like you've done all these things here, you've made all this, and like, you know what came up? It's a post-it note. Hell yeah, who? That's it. Done. Right. So let's let that play out here. What I'm feeling right now is that I'm gonna wrap up this conversation exactly as it is. I'm not gonna go back to either of you here. We're gonna let that sit. I'm gonna mute both of you, and then I'm gonna just go forth and just kind of close this out all together. As I'm closing this out, I want to acknowledge both of you, and acknowledge both of you for choosing yourselves today, for choosing yourselves when you decided to say yes to this opportunity, for choosing yourselves when you decided to show up in this opportunity. And it's one of the things that's really interesting to me when I find around like in a group setting like this. It's like we're getting coached even when we're not being coached. And one of the things that I find is like we're like, in order to see some of our own blind spots, it's easier to see it in other people than it is in us. It's easier to feel that desire. It's easier to recognize something in ourselves. My thing is this: I don't get triggered by a whole lot of different things. It takes a lot for something to trigger me. It takes a lot for something to inspire me. It takes a lot for something to intimidate me. And when those things happen, I get grateful because it shows me as a reflection that it's something that I might want for myself, or it's something that feels out of integrity with me. So I want to acknowledge and say thank you to both of you for playing this game here, for choosing to play this game of really being in this space. And now I'm going to talk to all of you. Where in your life could you use some more mirrors? Where in your life could you use not just one person, but a group of other people who are playing in their next level, not just next level of success because they have that, they can keep doing that, but their next level of growth, that growth that takes them from moving in a linear fashion to an exponential fashion, or if they're in an exponential curve, to accelerating that and having that grow at an even more rapid pace. There's a reason why I choose to bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world. It already exists. There's nothing else that we need to do. But now the fun part is bringing all of us together to start creating together, to start inspiring, to challenge, and to champion one another. If that's something that you're interested in, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm building something really unique, really special here where we're doing this. It's called The Oasis. You can check it out at niiamahashong.com/oasis. And if you want to be a part of a 5-group cohort where we do things like this on a regular basis, we get a chance to see each other, challenge, and to get coached in a way to help us move toward our goals, both our visions, our what visions, and our who visions, and so on and so forth, then come play. This is the game we're playing, and this is how we choose to do it. It's an honor to serve you here today. I'm Niiamah Ashong. Thanks.